Want to start off by saying if you can hear something snoring, it's not me. It's not anyone in the room. It's nothing like that. It is purely my dog is deciding to sleep in the room with me, and it snores like I don't even know how to explain. It's like a pig, essentially. That's what we call it. But more important things to discuss. Sorry, but yeah, Liverpool transfer deals, big. Not news. I don't think we're going to get any news for probably a few months. The main priorities, of course, going to be signing Mo Salah, Trent, Van Dijk, seeing what goes on with their contracts before anything gets agreed, before we agree any deals with players. I think that just seems to be the norm that Liverpool follow. And the big one at the moment is the news that Liverpool are interested in Alexander Isak. Before we get into that, make sure to click like and subscribe, all the usual stuff, because there's 3,700 here, which is mental. 3,700 people who've watched me and thought, yeah, click subscribe. It's mental that we're at that position. But yeah, it's been a busy few weeks. There is a video coming out soon. I'm halfway through editing it at the moment. I'll probably be up tomorrow, I imagine, at about 5 o'clock. Then we've got another live stream I'm going to do tomorrow. We've got this today, just trying to sort of fill in the gaps in between, because it's difficult to do consistent uploads when you've got a full-time job, you've got other obligations you've got to commit to. So this is just a nice way to sort of bridge the gap and make sure that everyone still gets something to watch and enjoy when the regular content isn't coming up. The one that's coming out in the next couple of days, we are doing 10 transfers that almost happened to Liverpool, 10 crazy transfers that almost happened. We've got a tier list video of this current squad, what I think is going to happen to them in the summer transfer window. That one's a big one, so I'm waiting for that one to get sorted correctly. We've got the stream tomorrow previewing PSG. We've got a lot coming up. But this one's just a quick sort of breezy one, because there's a lot of news out and about at the moment regarding Liverpool transfer dealings. And the big one, of course, is Alexander Isak, the man who I think every club in England, particularly Arsenal, are interested in. He's been one of the best strikers in Europe, one of the best strikers in the world this season, arguably. Went through that purple patch a few weeks ago where he scored, I think it was like 11 goals in 8 games or 8 consecutive games. Got a hat trick in that period of time, scored a brace. I've actually got it on my phone right now. So in that time, Alexander Isak scored against us, Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich, Villa, United, Tottenham, 2 against Wolves. He scored 2 against Southampton, 2 against Forest, Chelsea, Arsenal, Forest again, Tottenham. Like, he's been unbelievable this season, Alexander Isak. And I think I'm not opposed to the idea of signing Isak, but I have heard and I've seen and I've read how much the club is talking about how much it costs to sign Isak. And that's my big gripe with this. Let me know in the comments how much you would value Alexander Isak. At the moment, the way things are going, the reports are stating that it's around 150 million pounds, which would blow our record transfer fee out of the water that we paid for Nunez. That was around 70, rising up to 80. This would absolutely shit all over that. Alexander Isak would be far and away our most expensive player. And I'm not sure how I feel about it in terms of that. Let me just turn down this because it's quite prominent. There we go. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I've got no gripe with Alexander Isak as a player. I have absolutely no issue with Liverpool's sort of, because we're linked to all these big players all the time. Every summer, there's always that big name that we're linked with. Jude Bellingham, Chouameni, of course, being some of the more recent ones. There was the Nabil Fekir one, which we almost completed, but it was another big name we were linked with. Go back to 2014, Alexis Sanchez, Cesc Fabregas. Like, every summer window, Liverpool are linked to these big names. And he's the hot commodity at the moment, Alexander Isak. He's the player who everyone would be happy to have in their team, because he is top quality. They knew that before they signed him from Sociedad, Newcastle. Arsenal were interested in him. Chelsea were interested in him. United were interested in him. I think every club in Europe that has like ambition of competing for the top 4 in the Champions League and winning their league titles wants Alexander Isak, or wanted Alexander Isak at this moment in time. But do Liverpool necessarily need him? Yes, but I would not be justifying 150 million on Alexander Isak, to put it bluntly. I think he's a top commodity. Liverpool are in desperate need of a striker. There's Diogo Jota, who, yeah, he has his moments. He can score vital goals. He's been class at points. Jamie Carragher said it's the best finisher he's seen at the club over the likes of Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen, Luis Suarez, Mo Salah, everyone who he listed. A bit of a stretch, but the injuries are ludicrous to Diogo Jota. They are absolutely ridiculous how often he's getting injured. And it's not even like he's playing like a stretch of games and he's getting injured and then he's missing long periods with a bad injury, or he's like breaking a leg or tearing ACL, which would be awful. I don't want that, but he's getting niggly injuries every game almost that are keeping him out for weeks at a time. Hamstrings, I think he hit his ankle at one point. His calf was an issue at one stage, and it's inconsistent how often he's actually getting to play. And then you've got Darwin Nunez, who look, Nunez is I like Nunez's work rate. I have defended Nunez to high heaven. I've done it on the transfer room. I've done it on Redmen. I've done it here. And I do think that Nunez has a certain skill set that could benefit a lot of clubs that play real intense football. I think that's why Klopp wanted Nunez, was just for his work rate, because it definitely wasn't his finishing that he saw. And I'm not going to dispute that Nunez has had his class moments. Newcastle last season, the 2 goals at St James's Park, Nottingham Forest, the last-minute winner, Brentford this season, Bournemouth in the League Cup last season or the season before even. He does have his class moments. He is top quality in little flashes. But you cannot be in your 3rd season as a club's most expensive player, as the club's most expensive signing, and there still be question marks over whether or not you are good enough. If you're in your 3rd season at a club like Liverpool, you're the most expensive signing. You're there to lead the line at points when, Salah's not in the team or they need a central player who's going to dart in behind. You cannot be in that situation where it's your 3rd season, question marks are still up in the air about you, because you know then that there is something wrong. And Nunez clearly does not fit Slot's system. I was convinced when he did sign, because of what we saw with Jimenez at Feyenoord, that Nunez was going to fit in perfectly, or slot in, to coin a phrase. And everyone thought he was going to get the best out of him. It's not worked. It doesn't look like it's going to work. Slot wants his sort of attackers to come deeper. Really makes me sad that we didn't get to see Roberto Firmino in Arne Slot's system, because he likes having those attackers that come deep. He wants that false 9. He wants to create space for Salah. He wants to create space for Gakpo or Diaz. And Nunez doesn't do that. So it's clear that we are in need of a central attacker. We also don't know what's going on with Mo Salah, who is still up in the air. He's still doing the interviews saying that he wants to stay. The club aren't giving him the money. That's a discussion for a different day. As far as we're aware, we don't know what the issue situation is. It might be years, might be wage, might be funds. We don't know. But we could lose a vast amount of goals. And in that scenario, you take out what Salah's done this season, the contribution he makes in terms of goals and assists. Liverpool aren't even breaking into top 4. So it's clear that reinforcements are needed going into summer, regardless of whether Salah's staying or not, because Jota and Nunez, both of them, not a chance that both of them are here next summer. I'd argue that I think both of them will leave in this summer. When we do the tier list video, and that goes out in probably a couple of days, you'll see what I mean by that. And yeah, I don't know. Isak for me, I look, he's amazing. We know that. He's great at running in and behind. He's a very physical presence, and he's a very unique build for an attacker. I think he sort of fits into that Gakpo mold, where for how athletic he is, how nimble he is, his pace, his acrobatic nature, he shouldn't be the height he is. I think he's like 6'4" or 6'3". Like, he's really built differently in that regard. But for 150 million, do we need him for 150 million? Is that something that's on our to-do list? Is that a position of the pitch where we necessarily need to sign straight away? Probably not. I mean, like, if you look at this Liverpool team as a whole, if you look at the dynamic that we play, the way that we operate, the positions on the pitch which are strengthened or strong, you go behind the starting lineup. Like, you look at centre backs, you've got Van Dijk, Kanate, and then who's behind them? It's Jarrell Kwanzaa, who hasn't been up to top quality this season like he was the season before. You've got Gomez, who's injured and more than likely on his way out. We need depth there. You go look at left back, and you've got Andrew Robertson, who, God love, I love Robertson, but he's definitely dipping. He's lost that yard of pace. Then you've got Tsimikas, who is reliable left back, like as a deputy, getting to probably 8 or 10 Premier League clubs starting lineups, maybe, but you need more options there. Trent could be leaving. Who's then right back behind Conor Bradley? Gravenberch is our only out and out number six at the moment because of the system played. Endo is not. He doesn't fit slot system as great as he is at points and coming on in the last minutes and grind and wins out in a James Milner style. There's other areas of this pitch that need strengthening before we go out and splash £150 million on a striker when the goals are coming from other players up front, if that makes sense. Obviously, we don't know what's going to go on with Salah. We don't know if we're going to lose his contribution. But there's clear signs at the back that old age is creeping in, that a certain level has been reached by a couple of these lads, i.e. your Simicast, maybe your Quansah at points. There's other parts that need strengthening. Like if you took Gravenberch out that team, who's coming in to fill that role who can do what he does? Very few players at the moment could, but you need the option there, someone who can play a similar role, because Endo can't do that. Tyler Morton's probably not going to be around this team next season. Zubimendi's off to Arsenal. So there's other parts of this team that need strengthening before we go 150 million on a striker. Alexander Isak's great. I would be more than happy if we signed Isak, but Slot's system predicates around that false nine, that kind of player who's going to make space. Isak is not that type of player. And I don't know in my mind if this means that the club are sort of resigned to Salah is leaving. So there needs to be another player in that front line who can take over the goal scoring responsibility, which I hope isn't the case. I want Salah to stay. But the fact that he's not signed a deal, the fact that this is all still up in the air, this deal, if it does come true, sort of says to me that Liverpool are resigned to losing Salah. And we need someone who's going to come in, step up, and take over in the goal scoring department. I wouldn't be opposed to it being Isak. I think if you were to go out and say what striker at the moment do you want, Isak could probably be top, if not top 2 or 3 on my list. But I for 150 million, I just think that this seems a bit too far fetched for Liverpool, who aren't even offering the correct money that we know of to keep around 3 players who have been integral to this team and could be integral to this team for the next few seasons. Just Dave says, I'd value Isak at about the same as we paid for Nunez. I don't agree necessarily. I do get what you mean. I do understand that, like, in terms of if it's a case of we can't overpay, we're happy to just reach a certain limit and then leave it. Absolutely fine. But I think Isak's proven himself more than Nunez did when he signed him. Isak is playing for a Newcastle team where he's scoring goals that players at like a Chelsea, a Liverpool, an Arsenal, like these big teams would score. He's shining, and he has done since he's got there. He's proved it in a more difficult league. There's more of sort of a track record of Isak's progression, how well he's done. He's done amazing in Spain. He was linked to Arsenal. Nunez sort of had that little flash at Benfica, and then we paid over the odds for him at a time where we didn't necessarily need a striker. And I think Isak is worth more than Nunez, but I do think he's not worth. But I don't think he's worth 150 million. I certainly would not be going out there, even if we sell players, which I'm not too sure how many players we're gonna sell if we're going to be losing Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent on freeze anyway. If they don't agree deals, I can't see us then turn around and say, right, Jota, Nunez, Diaz, Gomez, all of you can go, because then we're suddenly looking at a summer window where we're going to have to sign 6, 7, 8 players for exponential amounts of money. And if Isak alone is £150 million, I don't see us going out and spending a further 200 something million on a stupid amount of players, because that's just not the way FSG operate. That's not the way this club operates anymore. Maybe if you go back to the sort of 2014 window where we spent 100 million and we got like Balotelli, Markovic, Lallana, Lovren, Moreno, Manquillo on loan, Ricky Lambert, Emre Can, all just wank. But it was a vast amount of players, and it sort of had a detrimental effect. Tottenham did it when they sold Bale. I don't see Liverpool going out and doing that. And I also can't see them spending 150 million on one individual player up front who isn't necessarily what we need right now. I personally would value Isak sort of in the similar bracket to what you're saying. I'd say about 80, 85. I understand he's 25 years old. I understand he's top quality at the minute, and he's doing it for Newcastle. Like, he's got Champions League experience now. He's like in cup final experience. He's terrific, but just don't pay over the odds. I don't want to see that money just thrown around willy-nilly like a sort of Chelsea, the way they do it. But I might be wrong. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm I'm all for it if we get him. We do need a striker. I've said that on multiple platforms. We do need to sign a striker. I just don't want to go nuts and sort of bankrupt ourselves on one player when there's other areas of this team that need strengthening, like vitally. I just heard that on the mic, and I'm very sorry about that. I'm not feeling great, as you can kind of tell. But yeah, it is what it is. Isak, all for if it's a good price. That's been reported by Saka Valieri. Yeah, I just completely butchered his name, but yeah. I mean, I suppose this is another one we can talk about because I'm just going to go through some of the news of the day and the past couple of days. Like I said, these streams are just here to sort of keep things coming out, keep up to date. It's hard doing the list videos when, like I said, you work full time, and I work a lot of like day shifts, then night shifts, then all sorts of weird things. These are nice ways to connect with you guys, to keep let you know that I'm still around. I'm not quit. I'm never going to quit. I'm going to make this happen. And I suppose Joshua Kimmich is a good thing to discuss because Arsenal were linked from the other day. That was all over Sky that apparently they're interested in signing on free. He's not agreed a deal with Bayern Munich. According to this report, Joshua Kimmich was offered to both Real Madrid and Liverpool through an intermediary, but both clubs turned down the opportunity. I wouldn't mind Kimmich as a sort of a backup. I think if you're losing Trent in particular and Conor Bradley is going to have to really step up, Kimmich could be a good player to bring in who can operate as that number six, as that right back. It's just the wages. And like I've heard he's on around 250 to 300k a week. I've heard ridiculous things about like bonuses and how much the club would have to pay just to bring him through the door, even though he would be a free signing. Bayern apparently have some clause where they receive some of the fee. So it's mental money, but I think if you're getting Kimmich on a free, there's worse ways to go. You look at our track record with signing free players, Maxi Rodriguez, James Milner. There's a few others I wouldn't really want to bring up, but I wouldn't mind Kimmich in a sense. I don't think he particularly fits slot system. He wants his fullbacks to be very attacking. I don't think Kimmich really has that sort of attacking edge as much anymore. He's still capable. We've seen that at Bayern this season. As a number six, it could be a good sort of backup, but he's a similar sort of vein to Nunez, where I don't think he's terrific on the ball, but he's a brick shithouse of a defensive midfielder, and I'd be fine with that. It doesn't fill me with confidence. It doesn't seem like the sort of FSG model. It sort of it's got that Thiago Alcantara vibe where it's going to be high wages, high funding for someone who's in their 30s. Clearly, they're gonna decline. You're not going to sort of recoup the fund that you pay for them in terms of wages. I don't know. He's a good player, but he's not someone I'd be sort of bending over backwards to try and bring in, even if it is a free. I wouldn't mind it. It wouldn't be awful. I wouldn't be like kicking up a fuss saying, "Oh my god, we've signed Kimmich. Why have we done this?" I'm all for it if we get him on a good one. Just don't go nuts and break the bank. I sound like a very sort of pro FSG fan. I've said this on video. I'm not the biggest advocate of FSG. I'm not huge, but I can understand the sense that they have in terms of their deals. This would be another one where I just think they're not going to go nuts for Kimmich. They're not going to go out and give him like 300k a week, 250k a week. And he's probably not going to be content being a backup. If he goes to Real Madrid, the injuries they've got, the players who are probably going to be leaving soon, Ancelotti might be on his way out. With Alonso more than likely going to be the manager to take over from him, Kimmich could be a good player to have around the dressing room. He's obviously won multiple Bundesligas. He's won Champions League. He's won everything essentially from a German standpoint. He's not awful. I wouldn't be opposed, but just don't go nuts. Ignoring the Mamadou Sakho stuff for now. This one, very happy, very, very, very happy. So Liverpool are apparently in talks over a new contract for Conor Bradley, as Liverpool want to reward the 21-year-old. He's still in contract until the summer of 2027, which is 2 years away this summer. But Liverpool are keen to tie him down due to the uncertainty of Trent. Fantastic. Just get it done. Like contract is a word now that it gives me like PTSD. It just hearing contract, it goes into my head and it just does my nut in. Salah, Trent, Van Dijk, done to death. Diaz was apparently meant to be getting a contract sort of earlier on this season when he had that amazing patch at the beginning of the campaign for the first like 6-7 games. Then it went to Ibrahima Konate, who addressed it in a press conference, said, "Yeah, I've been offered one," and then nothing. Now Conor Bradley. I'm not buying any of this contract discussion until I see that photo of them signing it on the table. But give Conor Bradley a contract, man, because he's been so good in the absence of Trent in this team. He's been absolutely fantastic since making that step up into the Liverpool starting lineup. And at Bolton, I think he was their player of the season. He was amazing at Bolton. Going back and watching highlights, admittedly, I didn't watch Bolton. I'm watching none of that stuff. But I'm made up, though, that he's been able to force his way into this team to an extent. It feels like Trent's getting subbed off pretty much every game, and Bradley's coming on and making such a sizable impact. He's not put a foot wrong. He comes on and he's so stable at the back. I'd argue defensively, he has better flashes in the pan than Trent does. I think he's a bit more rugged in a tackle. He'll get stuck in. He's a bit more aggressive. He can be a bit, at points he can get a bit carried away with the emotion. The Everton match in particular at Goodison was one where he just needed to calm down. But that's that inexperience. He's 21 years old. He's still learning. But I love Conor Bradley's grit. I love the way he plays. I love that he's so passionate about doing it when he does get on the pitch. His delivery is not bad. It can get better, but he does definitely have his moments. He's a talented player, and I think he's one of those that definitely deserves a contract. And we talk a lot about, well, if Salah goes, who'd you bring in to replace him? If Van Dijk goes, who'd you bring in to replace him? No one can. But if Trent leaves, Bradley is ready-made to jump into that role. And at such a young age, he's sort of in that position that Trent was when Klopp came in, where you can mold him into the type of player you want. Conor Bradley is 21, and I just think there's so much potential there. There's so much talent there that you could work with. And it makes so much sense to sign him down. Just keep him around this club. You want a future proof without breaking the bank and signing another right back, which we're going to have to anyway. But Bradley should be the first team next season if Trent does go. Bradley should be the player to come in and fill that gap if Trent does go. And I think he's more than deserving of this contract if it is a real thing. It'll probably be to like 2030, maybe 2031 if they do sign on length. I don't know what his wages would be. I don't know what his wages are at the moment, to be honest. But I'm very happy with the prospect of keeping Bradley around, giving him what he wants. He's not leaving. I don't think there's any sort of danger of that. He's going to get first team football, especially if Trent goes. Let me know, though, do you guys think it's a good thing to give Bradley his contract, or would you be focusing elsewhere? Because I suppose that's a kind of debate to have is, do we really need to be prioritizing a Conor Bradley contract when you've got players like Salah, like Van Dijk, like Trent, yada, 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 whose contracts are run down? Maybe not. Maybe you do have to focus on other players. Maybe Conor Bradley is not the priority. Maybe Conor Bradley should be pushed to the back of the queue in terms of getting a deal when he's still got 2 years left and, he's still young and he's probably going to stick around. But I just, it's nice to see that he'd be getting the reward he deserves, because he's one of those players who I think can go under the radar. He can sort of go underappreciated, and he's had fantastic games. That Mbappe challenge alone, which is the image on the screen, he deserves something for that. I hope he got a bonus or something, because that was otherworldly. He was great against Everton, other than, like I said, like the head loss. He did have his moments, but whenever he plays, I can't recall him putting a foot wrong. Even last season against like Arsenal in the FA Cup, he looked really good. I'm excited to see what we can do with Conor Bradley. And I hope that Slot does realise what he's got there. I hope this isn't a case of, like when Klopp came in, there were a number of players in that team where you looked at it and thought, God, they could get into that team. They could break into that team. I think Chirivella was one. I think not Conor Bradley. Conor Randall or something like that. There was a lot of young, talented players in that team that we thought were going to flourish under Klopp and become like world beaters, because that's what he was renowned for at Dortmund. And I hope that Conor Bradley is one of the youth players that Slot keeps around. I hope he is someone who he looks at and goes, "There's my long-term solution if Trent does leave." Whether or not he does it, I don't know, but I'm very hopeful. Joshua Kimmich again, PSG. We're going to discuss tomorrow. I'm going to do another live stream. Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace. I mean, yeah, fine. I think the heat sort of died down from Adam Wharton a little bit. Whether or not he's someone that Liverpool would go for, not really too sure. And then Milos Kerkez, of course, is that's the deal that I think everyone's really pushing for. And we'll touch on that for about 5 minutes just before we shoot off, because I think Kerkez is brilliant. He's shown that this season at Bournemouth that he's one of the best or hottest commodities in the fullback area, not just in the Premier League, but I think across Europe. this season. And Liverpool are definitely in need of a left back. Andrew Robertson is in his 30s now. Andrew Robertson is a player who is not going to be around for much longer. I'd say if this isn't his last season, next season is the last. Kostas Tsimikas, like I touched on earlier, he's a decent backup, and like I said, I think you'd get into your Crystal Palaces, your Brentfords. I'm struggling to think of Premier League teams. Maybe your Bournemouth if Kirkes was to leave. But he's not going to be a level that's suitable to what we need. And he's in his late 20s. I think he's one of the players we're going to move on in the summer to bring up some funds. Kirkes needs to be signed. Like this report from Fabrizio Romano says, they're keeping tabs on him. The young talent shares an agent with Federico Chiesa and is eyeing a move to a top club. Just get the deal done, because a left back is such a priority in this team. Liverpool need another left back. We need another left back, another centre back, number 6. All this before, and going back to the earlier point, before we go out and spend £150 million on a striker in Alexander Isak. Kirkes should be a priority signing, because I think he'd fit slot systems so well. He's so great at coming inverted. He's so good at tracking back. His ball delivery is terrific. Robertson is phenomenal going forward still. He's so good at darting runs and picking up the ball and driving with it. We saw that against City time and time again. Tsimikas is, I'd say, a better deliverer of the ball than Robertson at this point in time. He can get back a bit better than Robertson, I think. But Kirkes is like the best of both worlds. And I really hope that this is not just one of those rumoured ones where Liverpool being linked with him because it's clear they need left back, get Kirkes, and then eventually he signs for United or Arsenal or something along those lines. Because I know Arsenal need a left back as well, with Zinchenko leaving more than likely. Lewis Skelly can't be the only player to operate in that system. They're probably going to bring someone else in. I really hope that this is a sign that Liverpool can make. And fund-wise, we sell Tsimikas, a couple players go, maybe a Tyler Morton leaves, you get a little bit of funding there. The money will be available to do it. And I do think this summer is going to be about transition. This is going to be the summer where Slot identifies, or he already has identified, what type of parts of the pitch he wants to develop, who he needs, who'd be best for what situation. And Kirkes needs to be one of them. I think you could get him for a good price. If Bournemouth get European football, it might be a bit more difficult, maybe raise the price a little bit. But Liverpool are going to be in the Champions League next season. We all know that. Bournemouth, maybe Europa League, but it's probably going to be like the Europa Conference League or something around those marks. Kirkes will have the opportunity to step up big time. And I'm really, really hoping that this is one that Liverpool can get done. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of, the Isak news I can live without in terms of the money that we're paying for him. Again, no doubt, I think he's a quality player. That's, everyone knows it. I've said that about 10 times in the stream alone. And I would not be disappointed if we signed Isak. If anything, I think it'd be a testament to how good Liverpool's pulling power is at the moment, how strong of a club we are. Arsenal are definitely going to go in for Isak. And I don't want to get into that sort of bidding war with Arsenal where the price gets hiked up, because we've seen in the past few years, they're willing to spend. They're obviously going to get Zubimendi in the summer. That's going to take up a lot of funding. They're going to need to strengthen at left back. They do desperately need a striker because Havertz is going to be out for a long time. And even when he is back, he's not the answer anyway. Gabriel Jesus plays like he's smuggling turds. There's a clear part of the pitch that Arsenal needs strengthening, and it is striker. And I think Isak is the one that they're going to want. That's the one they're going to really push for to get. I don't want to end up in that bidding war. I don't want to end up in that sort of situation where Isak is going to cost this club ludicrous amounts of money because it's not worth it. There's other parts of this pitch that we can strengthen in. There are other parts of the team that need strengthening. We need another left back, centre back, a backup number 6 to Gravenberch, because you can't play every minute of every single game, despite the fact that he has so far this season. Trent might be leaving, so you need to operate at bringing in another right back. Salah could go. You're going to need at least 2 attackers for him. If we spend 150 on Isak, if we go out and splash that money on one individual player, we are not going to replace the potentially departing players by bringing in 5 or 6 other players for 300 million more. We're not going to do that because that's not the way this club operates. Go for Isak, but just don't break the bank. And if we don't get him, I'm sure there are alternatives out there. He's just, yeah. Just there says, I can't really disagree with a single word you've said. Well, thank you very much. It's nice to know that I don't just speak absolute bollocks. Does me good. I'd like to see more Jaden Dans. Yeah, Dans. I would love to see more Jaden Dans. He's obviously on loan at the moment. He's going out. He's gone out even. Yeah, Dans is an interesting one. I was at the Accrington match, and he obviously got the goal in there. He's very good. He's a very physically aggressive player. He likes getting stuck in. I would like to see more of Jaden Dans, and I do think that if we do lose Jota and Nunez, or Jota and or Nunez, one or the other, I'd be more than thrilled with seeing Jaden Dans come into this team and really get a push as a sort of backup, given the opportunity to shine. I just do think it comes down to that sort of. I think Slot wants someone who can track back deeper and operate with the ball at feet, providing for other players. And I don't think Jaden Dans is necessarily that type of player. And Dan's is a bit more, he likes to just be in the box and receive it. He likes to run onto the ball as opposed to picking it up deep and creating space for others. He's a very tall lad. He's like, he likes being involved in the challenge. Whereas, I don't know, someone like a Firmino would have fitted Slot so well. I'm so disappointed that he can't get it. But I do hope he gets his chance, Dan. He's another young lad who I would love to see be in this team going forward. Same with James McConnell. I hope he's another one who really does get a push in this squad next season. There's options there. And it does frustrate me when I think that the modern game now, and I'm saying that like I'm 50, I'm not 28, but like it does frustrate me. People just want to see the shiny new addition. People want to see the shiny new player that we've spent 100 million on. And that Isak would be that type of player. People would go, oh my God, we've spent money. Brilliant, blah, blah, blah. I want to see the young lads come through. I want to see James McConnell get his chance. I want to see Jaden Dans get his opportunity. I want to see these young lads who have been a part of this team for a long time force their way in. That cup final last season, the Carabao Cup, when it was Klopp's kids, was so much more special than the one we won in 21-22 when we were going for the quadruple. Because it was the young academy lads who forced their way into that team due to injuries and because of fitness reasons and won it for us. I would much rather see us sign one or two players for a good amount of money who are going to strengthen the squad and see those young talents progress into the team. With the modern game nowadays, everyone just wants to see the shiny new signing who costs 150, 200 million pounds. Look at Chelsea as an example. It doesn't always work. And Isak, I don't want to see us break the bank at such an exponential rate just to purely sort of say, here's our big money signing. We're a powerhouse. Now we've got about 50 million to bring in another left back, another centre back, another CDM, another right back, someone to go on the right wing. I don't want to see that because there's another way that we operate, and I don't think we necessarily need to change it now. Let me know in the comments what you think. Again, not against Isak, but just don't go nuts. Like, if you can't afford a Ferrari, don't go out and try and get one. If you can just about afford a Ferrari and you've also got a mortgage to pay, don't spend all your money on the Ferrari and then get kicked out the house. Like, if you're going to go for Isak, if we're going to sit there and we're going to solidly go for this attacker who is undeniably class, just I don't want to see us put in a situation where we basically blow a load on that one player. But I might be talking bollocks. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please make sure to click like and subscribe. At the time of doing this, we're on 3,717, which is bananas. Is absolutely nuts. There is going to be a video coming out tomorrow. We've got the top 10 craziest Liverpool transfers that almost happened. There's some really weird ones on that, I'm going to be honest with you. I've got a tier list which I'm sorting out at the moment. That'll probably be out in a couple of days. It's going to be another live stream tomorrow about midday. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good day.